So next up is AT&T. Marachel Knight is AT&T's SVP of Technology Planning and Engineering. She's spearheading their 5G evolution with 12 cities expected by year end. I still can't believe that we'll have actual 5G service this year. AT&T has several trials up, but the one I hope we hear about is in Waco, Texas at Chip and Joanna's store. I love their show Fixer Upper. So Marachel, here's my question. Can we convince them to do another season and broadcast it on 5G? Everybody welcome Marachel. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think I'm on. Good afternoon, and thank you to CTIA for having me. 5G, as we all know, which is the reason we're here, is critical to the technology evolution we have going on here in the US. And from an AT&T perspective, we're all in on 5G. I'm going to set a couple of contexts here, though, as I talk about what 5G means to AT&T and to the industry and the ecosystem at large. So the future of 5G. The first point I want to make is that we actually are building on the LTE network. Unlike previous networks, if you think about the transformation from 2G to 3G, 5G really is building on the LTE network and the existing infrastructure we have in place. So when we think about like LTE Advanced and some of the capabilities, you've heard about massive MIMO, you heard carrier aggregation. We're actually building upon that. License assisted access, where we're using licensed spectrum and unlicensed spectrum at the same time. And then in the C-RAN architecture, this notion of densifying with small cells. We're building small cells for LTE. Those same small cells will benefit our customers as we move to 5G. The next thing about 5G I want to point out is that it's the first network to be born in the cloud. So what does that mean for us? At AT&T, we started over 2 years ago virtualizing our packet core network, the mobility packet core. That allows a lot of advanced services and flexibility in the network in the way that we're able to bring services to market. So when we think about this high capacity need on the network, we've seen over 250,000% increase in traffic going back to 2016 to the end of going back to 2009 to the end of 2016. That's a tremendous amount of growth. We're leading in IoT, but yet as we think about 5G and this massive deployment of networks and the connectivity of machines, 5G is going to help enable that. So we're really excited about what 5G offers and how we are going to be able to change the customer experience in this space. So a little bit of context. Meredith mentioned the trials. So we've done several trials, actually dating back to 2016 when we launched our first demo in Austin, and then expanded it to the first enterprise business trial in Austin as well. Those trials are both millimeter wave and fixed wireless. We've done everything from residential customers. We in Waco have the Magnolia at the silos where we're doing Wi-Fi connectivity and providing service there. We also have in Austin, Texas, in addition to the lab setup that we have there, we're live with trials there with car washes, churches, thinking about not just consumers, but what we're doing with small business owners, medium business owners, and enterprises. And really, how do we bring to life the connectivity and what we're learning in terms of propagation of millimeter wave? One of the things that we saw in South Bend, Indiana, which is where we have another trial, is really this notion of what happens with millimeter wave in line of sight. We were pleasantly surprised at our ability in actual speeds and things we saw, not just per line of sight, but also done line of sight conditions. So we're continuing to test the technology and get learnings out of our trials. In Kalamazoo, Michigan, we think about the different weather events that happens there, right? Our ability to actually continue service as it's rain and snow and other weather events. So a lot of good learnings that we've seen in Waco, up to a 1.2 gigabits of speed, latency in the 9 to 12 millisecond range. And so really getting some good learnings there, which actually take me then to our next item. Launch. Yes, 12 cities by the end of 2018. We are standards-based. Mobile is what our initial launch plan. Yes, the trials we're getting learning in fixed and mobile. We believe they're both important, but from a launch perspective, it's standards and mobile for us. We're going to launch with millimeter wave, and we've announced 3 cities: Dallas, Waco, Atlanta. There are more cities that will be announced here in the near future. One other thing I want to talk about here as it relates to 5G is this notion of edge being key. From an asset perspective, we're well positioned to actually take the computer power and push it as close to the edge and to the customers as needed. Put in compute power out of central office and actual core locations into small cell sites, our actual central offices and other locations that really say whatever the application. So if you think augmented reality, where today, where there's a lot of compute happening in the devices, if you could actually offload that to the network and have lower latency and real-time experiences, there's benefit to that. Same, Nicholas from Ericsson talked about the self-driving cars. Saving costs, weight, reducing the amount of time it takes to get data to the car in a real-time experience really requires edge, and that's a part of our strategy in pushing this to the edge of the network. The last topic I'll cover here is really around security. So I'm gonna go back a little bit to a company like AT&T that's over 140 years old, where security is in our DNA. We've been doing this for a long time. We monitor 24/7 what's happening. We see over 200,000 mail attacks directed towards AT&T every day. We have mitigation in place for that. And so as we think about 5G and security, and we think about these massive devices, we are actually building this from day one. This won't be an add-on or a bolt-on for us. It'll be built from day one into the network. That actually says, how do we prevent attacks? How do we mitigate them when they come? How do we see them? There's a lot of activity happening in our AI or artificial intelligence space. And we're building algorithms. We have our cloud platforms, all of our network management that's actually geared around to security and saying, how do we actually protect the network and protect our customers? And the last thing I'll note here, I talked about us actually software defining or virtualizing our core. That's also key here in the security space. And how do we think about really the agility to react quickly and our ability to actually, whether it's at the edge of the network and the core of the network, stop any attacks. So the last thing I'll share here quickly is on policy. You've heard small cells, right-of-ways. We need it. To actually get the layer of densification we need in the network and actually to deploy millimeter wave effectively and efficiently, we really need efficient, cost-effective right-of-way access. We want to thank the FCC and commend them for actually announcing the recent auction that got announced yesterday for 28 gigahertz and 24. We would like to see additional in the 37, 39 shortly thereafter. And also this, in addition to millimeter wave, getting low band and mid band spectrum. So we're going to densify the network. There's also need for coverage. And so as we look at some of the mid band and lower band applications, that's going to be as critical. So in closing, let me just say from an AT&T perspective, we are all in on 5G. We are every day. I don't think there's a day that we don't talk about 5G at some point. And leading the actual technology planning and engineering team, there's a lot of things happening every day. So for one topic to come up every single day says that it's important to us. And we're making the investments to get it done. We're committing the resources. We're partnering with suppliers in the ecosystem to actually deliver. And we thank you all for helping to create an infrastructure that would actually make US successful in this place. And thank you for your time.